All right, let's get into it. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on something you hear every single day, but probably don't ever really think about: the very specific, very deliberate way news is communicated. It's a language all its own, and we're about to decode it together.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Whether it's a breaking story or the nightly news, there's this certain rhythm, this particular way of speaking that just sounds like the news. It feels familiar, it sounds authoritative, but why? What's actually going on there?
Well, it is absolutely not an accident. Every sentence you hear is a calculated choice. Journalists are using a very specific grammatical toolkit designed to do three things: make stories feel urgent, make the report seem totally neutral, and point your attention exactly where they want it to go.
So how do they pull this off? Here's our game plan. First, we're going to open up that reporter's toolkit. Then, we'll get into the why behind their word choices. After that, we'll see how this structure really shapes the story you hear. And finally, we'll talk about how this can change the way you listen to the news forever.
Okay, let's start by cracking open that toolkit. We're going to break down the key sentence structures that really are the backbone of broadcast journalism.
So, we're going to look at four key players here. First, there's the present simple, which makes things feel live and exciting. Then you've got the passive voice, a total classic of formal reporting. We'll also look at fronted adverbials, which guide our focus, and impersonal subjects, which kind of create this sense of distance and authority.
First up, the present simple. Now, in the world of news, especially live commentary, this tense is a seriously powerful tool. It takes something that's happening and puts you, the listener, right smack in the middle of it. It's the language of action, which is why it's perfect for sports, big ceremonies, and, of course, breaking news.
Think about it. This isn't just someone describing something, it's an experience. He turns, he shoots, he scores. The present tense creates this incredible energy and immediacy. You feel like you're right there watching it happen in real time. That's the vivid narrative in action.
Okay, next up is the passive voice. This is an absolute cornerstone of formal news reporting. Instead of focusing on who did the action, this structure shines a big spotlight on what was affected by the action.
Just look at this shift in perspective. The active voice is direct. Protesters block the road. Simple, right? The focus is clearly on the protesters. But in the passive voice, it becomes the road was blocked. Boom! Suddenly, the road is the subject. The actor, the protesters, just kind of fades into the background. The event itself takes center stage.
And finally, let's talk about how sentences are arranged. Remember those fronted adverbials? This is what we're talking about. When a reporter starts with a phrase like, "here in the Capitol," or "earlier today," they are intentionally moving information right to the front. This fronting technique frames the entire story before you even hear the main point.
So, we've seen the tools in the toolkit, but now let's dig into the why. These grammatical choices aren't just random stylistic things, they serve very clear, very specific journalistic purposes.
You know, it really all boils down to these three goals. Reporters are trying to make the story feel immediate and alive. They also need to sound objective and a little bit distant. And, crucially, they have to control the narrative's focus right from the very start. So, that use of the present tense? It's all about collapsing time. It creates this sense of urgency and really pulls you in. Even if a reporter is talking about something that happened 5 minutes ago, using the present simple makes the audience feel like they're witnessing it unfold right now, live. Objectivity is like the holy grail in news, and the passive voice is a key tool for getting there. By removing the actor, especially when we don't know who did it or it's in dispute, the report can focus purely on the event. So you hear, "a window was broken," instead of naming a specific group. It creates that formal, detached tone that signals impartiality. And by sticking adverbs of time or place right at the start of a sentence, a reporter instantly grounds you. It's like a film director choosing the opening shot. Before you hear any other detail, you know the where and the when, and that totally primes you for how to interpret everything that comes next. Okay, so we've got the what and the why, but how does this all actually affect us, the listeners? Well, these subtle little grammatical shifts have a really powerful impact on how we perceive and understand the news. We're looking at three major impacts here. First, the focus gets shifted away from the cause and onto the result. Second, this kind of language helps establish the authority of the report. And third, it gives the journalist really precise control over the flow of the story.
Here is a perfect example of what we call an impersonal subject. When you hear a phrase like, "it is believed that the talks will resume," you have to ask, who believes it? We don't actually know. This phrasing suggests this broad, authoritative consensus without naming a single source, which implies the information is widely accepted and totally reliable.
So let's just connect all the dots here. On the left, you've got the technique, like using the passive voice. In the middle, the purpose, to be objective. And on the right, the result. The focus ends up on the event, not the cause. You can see this same direct line for every single tool we've talked about. It's a complete system for shaping how you receive the news.
So, what is the big takeaway from all of this? How does knowing about this hidden grammar actually empower you as a listener?
The main thing to remember is this. The way a story is told is just as important as the story itself. The grammar isn't just passively describing events, it is actively shaping them into a specific narrative, with a specific focus and a specific tone before it even reaches your ears.
So the next time you're listening to a news report, I want you to really listen. Listen for that passive voice. Listen for the present tense. Listen for those phrases at the front of the sentence. And then ask yourself, what's being emphasized here? And just as importantly, what's being left in the background? Understanding this blueprint is the key to becoming a more critical and a more informed consumer of information.